Siddhartha Gautama did not begin his journey with a religion. He began with a systematic experiment to isolate the physical mechanism of human suffering. Although traditional stories describe a young prince who fled his palace in fear, the early texts show a rational investigator who recognized a flaw in human biology. Gautama lived in a period of rapid urbanization in ancient India, a time of rising states and trade. He had 3 palaces, complete luxury, and absolute comfort. Yet, he noticed that every human being is subject to physical decay and death. He reasoned that seeking happiness in things that are also subject to decay was a logical error. At 29, he made the calculated decision to go forth into homelessness, leaving his weeping parents behind. He did not seek a spiritual sanctuary. He sought a verifiable escape from the loops of existence. He initially studied under 2 famous meditation teachers, Alara Kalama and Udaka Ramaputta, and mastered their deep mental states. But he left them because their methods did not lead to complete cessation. He then spent 6 years practicing extreme starvation, pushing his body to the absolute limit. He realized this variable was flawed. A malfunctioning brain cannot observe itself. In the Maha-Saccaka Sutta, he describes his pivot. He recalled a moment from his youth, sitting under a rose apple tree. Without self-torture, his mind had naturally entered a state of focused joy. He formed a new hypothesis. Pure, non-sensual pleasure was the true path. He ate solid food to restore his strength, alienating his 5 ascetic friends, and sat down at the roots of the Bodhi tree to conduct his final experiment. This early experiment was the essential foundation. In his writings, Nichiren Daishonin describes these early practices as the temporary scaffolding needed to build a great pagoda. The scaffolding is necessary, but the ultimate purpose is the pagoda itself. Gautama sat beneath the Bodhi tree, ready to build the foundation. Gautama sat in deep silence, converting the space beneath the Bodhi tree into a laboratory of consciousness. His primary instruments were concentration and bare attention. The early texts describe his meditative journey as a systematic reduction of mental noise. He was refining his attention. He began by entering the 4 jhanas. These are progressively refined states of focus. In the first jhana, he secluded his mind from sensuality, experiencing a state of focused joy. In the second jhana, he stilled his directed thoughts, achieving internal tranquility. In the third jhana, he moved past the physical intensity of rapture, remaining equanimous and alert. In the fourth jhana, he abandoned both pleasure and pain, entering a state of absolute mental clarity. Crucially, the Maha-Saccaka Sutta records that throughout this deep progression, Gautama observed a constant reality. The pleasant feelings that arose did not invade his mind. He maintained perfect scientific detachment. With his mind highly concentrated and bright, he directed his attention to collect data during the 3 watches of the night. In the first watch, he recollected his past existences, noting his specific names and experiences. In the second watch, he observed the passing away and rebirth of other beings, mapping the universal law of cause and effect. In the third watch, he directed his mind toward the root of human suffering. It was here that he made his most revolutionary discovery. He discovered that human craving is a direct reaction to the physical sensations inside the body. External objects are merely the triggers. Every time we encounter an object, a pleasant or unpleasant biochemical sensation arises. The subconscious mind habitually craves the pleasant sensations and pushes away the unpleasant ones. Gautama had located the exact spark of suffering. Following his discovery of Vedana, Gautama formulated his findings into a structured framework. Today, we know this framework as the Four Noble Truths. While many traditions present these truths as a religious creed, the early texts reveal a precise clinical protocol. Gautama did not act as a priest. He operated as a master physician of the human mind. The first truth is dukkha, the symptom. This is the observable reality of existential friction and mental pain in daily life. The second truth is samudaya, the cause. Gautama identified the etiology of the disease as the subconscious reaction to physical sensations, which drives our endless cravings. The third truth is nirodha, the prognosis. It is the statement that the disease can be cured and suffering can completely cease. The fourth truth is magga, the treatment plan. This is the Eightfold Path, a systematic training program for human behavior and attention. To execute this treatment, the patient must enter the active process of observation, known as vipassana. Most spiritual methods attempt to calm the mind by suppressing thoughts or chanting prayers. But these practices only treat the surface. The deep-seated conditioning remains untouched in the subconscious. Gautama's protocol goes deeper. By observing physical sensations objectively, without reacting to them, you experience their transient nature, or anicca, in living immediacy. The brain's top-down expectations are corrected by raw, bottom-up sensory data. When you refuse to react to a pleasant sensation with craving or an unpleasant sensation with anger, the old conditioning begins to starve. The loop of reaction is broken. This clinical intervention systematically dissolves the deep mental blocks, restoring absolute mental health. Siddhartha Gautama spent 40 years preaching these foundational concepts. Through the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, he successfully guided millions of people toward mental peace and detachment. Yet, at the age of 72, the Buddha made a shocking announcement. In the introductory teachings to his final work, he declared, "In 40 years and more, the truth has not yet been revealed." To the advanced practitioner, this statement seems contradictory. Why would a teacher declare his own foundational levering incomplete? In his famous reply to the nun of Ueno, Nichiren Daishonin resolves this paradox with a beautiful architectural analogy. He explains that when a pagoda is built, workers first gather many small sticks to raise a temporary scaffold. The scaffold is raised a foot or two at a time to support the construction. Once the pagoda itself is erected, the scaffold is cut down. Nichiren Daishonin explicitly states that the early sutras are the scaffolding, while the Great Pagoda is the Lotus Sutra. The early levering focused on impermanence and the voidness of all things to break the human attachment to physical comfort. This was the necessary scaffolding, but it was only a preparation. If a builder refuses to tear down the scaffold once the pagoda is complete, the building remains hidden. In the same way, clinging to the early levering of impermanence prevents the practitioner from entering the ultimate reality. The Lotus Sutra casts aside these expedient devices. It reveals that the historical awakening under the Bodhi tree was a temporary pedagogical device. The true inner life of the Buddha is eternal and beginningless. This ultimate realization moves past the winter of detachment and enters the warm spring of active, universal Buddhahood. It is the transition from the scaffolding of the early truths to the magnificent pagoda of Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. to transition from theoretical understanding to direct experience, you must put the Buddha's ultimate discovery into practice. The Kalama Sutta serves as the early Buddhist charter for free inquiry. In this text, Gautama instructs his followers to test every teaching. He advises against relying on traditions, scriptures, or the authority of a teacher. Direct verification is the only reliable guide. Today, cognitive neuroscience provides remarkable validation of the Buddha's ultimate teaching. Chanting Myoho Renge is the deployment of a precise cognitive technology. Neuroimaging studies show that the physical act of objective focus and vocalization downregulates the default mode network. This is the specific brain network responsible for self-referential thought and endless anxiety. By quieting this network, you dissolve the constructed narrative of a fragile, limited self, which the Buddha called anatta. You move past the mental noise and tap directly into the ninth consciousness, the infinite reservoir of clean energy and absolute wisdom. You enter the great pagoda of your own Buddha nature. But to achieve these results, you cannot merely think about the practice. You must execute the action. For those who want to begin this journey today, we have designed the digital Complete Practice Kit. This collection contains the official practice book and the complete audio coach. You can find the direct link to the kit in the description below. Moving past the scaffolding of passive reading, you must chant Myoho Renge to enter the pagoda of your own life and prove the law for yourself.